What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Smart TV, and today I'm sitting down chatting with Alex, one of our Pathfinder alumni, on the journey that he undertook through years 11 and 12. Alex is going to be sharing some of the challenges that he experienced, but also the strategies that he implemented to, in the end, score an ATAR over 96. So welcome Alex. How are you going?
Good, thanks.
Now, just so we get to know you a little bit better, like what school did you go to? What subjects did you take during year 12?
So I went to St Andrew's Cathedral School in Sydney, and I did English Advanced, Maths Advanced and Extension 1, Physics, Modern History and Design and Technology.
Awesome. And when you started the year 12 journey, what was the course that you were hoping to pursue at university?
I was originally hoping to do Automotive Engineering and Industrial Design down in Melbourne. But by the end that kind of changed, and now I'm doing a Bachelor of Product Design at UTS.
Fantastic, awesome. So let's rewind a little bit, right? So obviously, the end of the journey works out. I think you were pleasantly surprised at the end. But if we go to the start of the journey, particularly start of year 12, what were some of the major challenges that you were sort of grappling with?
In terms of my study, probably procrastination, time management, distraction. I guess they're all kind of related, I guess. That was really a big problem, and I noticed by the end of year 11 it was really hurting my studies and my marks were going down.
So what did that look like? Because I think procrastination, distraction, lack of focus, like these are super common challenges that we grapple with, not just in school but beyond. How were they manifesting for you?
So if my desired course didn't kind of make it clear, my passion is cars, so reading and writing about cars. And I found myself being regularly distracted on going and exploring car websites on the internet or watching videos or just getting distracted through technology and not focusing on my work when I should have been.
Yep. And so in other words, instead of doing the assessment prep or the homework or the study notes, you could find yourself somewhere on a car website going down a rabbit warren.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, in terms of that then, you said that started impacting, sort of your results in year 11. Was that a bit of a wake-up call for you?
Yeah, by the end of year 11 I realised that I have to really do something now, otherwise it's going to continue and hurt my ATAR in the end of my results and what I can do at uni.
So what were some of the things then that you started trying to do to grapple with the distraction and the procrastination that was occurring?
A number of different things. I came to Smart, created a study plan. You guys really helped me with that. So I did that in kind of a little spreadsheet and broke it out day by day and week by week, and what study I need to do, what I need to get done.
So study plan, right? Step one, let's just sort of, I want to dive into that a little bit, right? Because I think, one, study plans are really important, but two, they're often done not so well, just generally. Like everyone tries them and they often don't work, right? I mean, that's what I observe. So you've gone, okay, you've reached out to Smart, you're like, all right, I need to make some changes. And then one of the things that we've clearly, sort of suggested, and you've gone, okay, cool, let's do it, is like, let's try to get a little bit of a plan here. What did that plan look like? So you've got it in a spreadsheet. What were you trying to change about how you were approaching study through that plan?
For me, the point of the study plan was just to break up the work I was doing and make it very clear what needs to be done when, so that I don't end up sitting down and going, oh, well, I feel like doing some of X subject today, and then not really accomplishing anything. Just setting a task that I need to do, being realistic, because in the end, setting too much work, or setting too much or too little, the only person you're really cheating is yourself in the end, and your result. So just basically being realistic with myself and saying, this is what I need to get done. This is all the things I need to get done in the next few weeks to accomplish this goal and be ready for this assessment or exam or whatever.
And so two things. One, it sounds like that by having something specific to do, because I know if I don't have something specific to do often, it's a gateway into procrastination. Because I could do a lot of different things, but I could also procrastinate. And so was the idea of trying to be really clear about what it was that you were needing to do, was that idea partly to try to reduce the likelihood that you would go and go down the rabbit warren of a car website?
Yeah, I think so. It just helps sitting down, knowing what you need to do, and also just not only so you're focused in that kind of moment, I guess, but so long term, so you know that all these little things you're doing are adding up and they're actually leading you somewhere, rather than just sitting down kind of doodling around saying you're doing work and kind of ending up 2 weeks down the track just for an assessment like, I'm not ready. And
so I think what we're getting at there is, I guess, the difference between like busy work, where you would still feel like you were doing work if you had that approach, right? Versus, I think, slightly more strategic work where we're doing some backwards planning. We're going, wait a minute, there's some key milestones that are happening in this term. I should be planning for them and putting in some sort of key work. So what did that look like? I mean, was that the planning that you were doing? Was that at our intensives that we ran in terms of the termly game plans? Was it on the workshops? Like, where did this sort of study planning, or was it in the mentoring? Where did that sort of take place?
It was a mix of some things with the intensive, but a lot of with my mentor and also you, Rowan, as well. Gave me a lot of help in terms of just helping me what makes a good study plan, what I need to put into it, and just, I guess, how to stay on track.
So now a question I've got to ask is, how effective were you at sticking to it? Because I think a lot of students in principle get the idea of, I probably should have a study plan. Sticking to it can be another challenge, right? And I feel like at times, just from knowing you a little, that was potentially a challenge as well. How did you go, and what did you do to sort of stay a little more consistent to it?
Yeah, I won't lie, I didn't always stick to it. I think by the end I was doing a pretty good job with doing that, but I still wasn't. But I was still finding myself getting distracted and getting off track, I guess. And I found that how I tried to solve that through the year was basically using my parents to help me stay accountable. So I bought a really big whiteboard, like you'd find in a classroom on wheels, and basically put that in somewhere easy to see in the house, and put my study plan on there, a little calendar of the year, and basically so everyone could see what work I was meant to be doing, and they could check in with me. Hey, did you do X? Did you write your study notes for modern history today, or did you do an hour of physics practice like you said you would? And that just helped me kind of stay on track and not fall behind in my rabbit hole procrastination.
So we've got the study plan, step one. Step two, really, in terms of the consistency to it, is I think one, keep on keeping on with it, right? Because as you said, I don't think anyone's perfect. I don't think anyone ever perfectly follows the plan, but it's about, well, if you're doing part of the plan, you're still ahead from what you were prior. And then third is create some accountability. Now, in your case, you did that with your parents, which is awesome. I can't certainly imagine me doing that with my parents. So I think the point here is for people listening is whether or not it's your parents or peers even, right? I think there's an important step here, or a mentor, just someone that you're sharing that plan with, so that they can sort of check in with you and go, what happened?
Just find someone that will help you stay accountable. It's not someone you speak to once every 2 months, someone you speak to you regularly, and they can check in with you, okay, hey, did you do this? Like you said you would.
To recap, we've got the plan, we've got the sticking to it, just trying even if it's not perfect, and we've got the accountability. What did you then? What did the sort of prep look like prior to exams? Like how did things change for you?
If we're talking the HSC and trials here specifically, I think it's probably of the most importance, I guess. In the months beforehand, obviously that would just be a general study, doing study notes, keeping up with classwork, all that kind of stuff. But I think within about 2 or 3 weeks of exams, I started to switch to kind of past paper mode. I'm going to sound like a bit like a broken record here, but I just kind of doing lots and lots of past papers. Even if it's not past papers, breaking them up. If you don't have time for, say, a 3-hour maths paper, break it up into a 1-hour chunk and mark that. And if you have trouble, see a tutor. I had tutors here at ATAR Smart. I found that's really helpful. And just get feedback, continually keep doing work, keep doing exam conditions. I think everyone says it, but exam conditions are, you like when you're a few weeks from an exam, you have to do it. And just staying on top of things, doing lots and lots and lots of questions.
Cool. And I guess the question is, how did that exam prep, I mean, it might not have, but I'm curious, if it did, how did it change from Year 11 and prior to getting support, both from tutors and the mentors and the Pathfinder program at ATAR Smart, to then getting that support and then going into trials? Were there changes in your approach and the way that you sort of prepped for those assessment and exams?
I think it was just generally, I was just more focused with my study plan. I mean, by the time I got to exams, it kind of got a bit looser, since I couldn't really plan a month in advance what I exactly needed to do, but it just was more organized. I'd broken it up. I knew what I was doing on which day and what I had to prioritize. And I think just ATAR Smart and the tutors and everything I implemented through Year 12 just helped me stay more on track, and it was more kind of concerted work that was actually being useful and productive. And I think it helped as well. Something I recommend, this is just a general point about study plans, is that I built in some time to kind of like some contingency time, I guess. So I knew that I would procrastinate and stay off topics, stay off track. So I built in some time to kind of say, this is a day where I haven't got anything planned, so anything that I've missed out on, I can fit into here. I think I found that quite helpful as well. Particularly even a week before exams, say a past paper that you couldn't get done, put into that time.
Great. And so I guess what's interesting is it's just really knowing yourself there.
Yeah.
And was that something that you just ended up creating over time because you started to realize, hey, wait a minute, to make this plan work more effectively, like there's stuff that I'm not getting done and I need to group it at sort of as a catch-up period?
Yeah, I knew kind of what I would do. Where sometimes you might sit down to do something and go, I don't really understand this, I've got to speak to a tutor. And that time you might not spend on that work, you might need to slot another time. I started to learn myself and learn how quickly I did things and what needed to be done, and I just found that time really helpful. And generally just with study plans, I just found it was beneficial to just be realistic. Don't set too much work for yourself and overload yourself, or don't set too little and then not be prepared for an exam. Just be realistic, know what you can do, because the only person that you're really kind of failing is yourself, I guess.
That's true. Now, as part of the support with ATAR Smart, there was some academic support. I know you were working particularly with Terry and Adrian, particularly in Year 12 for the second half largely as well, and then the Pathfinder program. Just sort of to dive in a little bit, what were some of the things that Terry and Adrian were doing with you and your support for maths and physics that you found particularly helpful?
What I wasn't really doing in Year 11, and for maths, well, way back through most of my high school time, was just regular questions. With maths and physics like that, when you're learning content so quickly in class, you just need to stay on top of it, do an hour or two a night. I mean, maths I was doing an hour a night, well, in my plan at least I was, but physics I was doing 2 hours every couple nights, and that just helps to stay on top of it. Not only, you see, are you just practicing the classwork, you're just staying on top of it, so when you get to an exam you don't have to cram an entire syllabus worth of things in 2 weeks. You've been progressively learning and progressively building your skills, and it allows you to then see a tutor or see a teacher every week or so and go, these are the issues I've identified, help me solve these and move forward.
And so was that then particularly where Terry was really, and Adrian I guess, really beneficial, as in they were getting you a little bit more accountable to doing the questions each week, and then providing you with the feedback loop on the questions and the clarification, or was it something else that they were doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that did help me get accountable. I mean, it's not really very useful going to a tutor and saying I've done nothing. So it does kind of go, you have to do more questions, identify weaknesses, and I mean, it isn't always bad if you go, I've done lots of questions, I haven't found anything wrong. I mean, that's a good thing, right? But yeah, and obviously my class teacher too, that's someone I would see every day or two. They're also, I've got a useful outlet.
So yeah, what were some of your favourite things or the best things about working with sort of tutoring team at ATAR Smart?
There's a couple things. I'd say I got on really well with my tutors. Really, really nice people, really reasonable, really flexible too in terms of like getting that last minute exam support a couple of days before the exam. But also they're very knowledgeable. They knew their stuff. They were well versed in their syllabus and the content, and really they had the knowledge to be able to help me and help solve my issues. They also opened me up to a number of different like new skills and way of doing things, at a different perspective that I wouldn't necessarily be taught in school, which even if I don't necessarily apply that in an exam situation, it's good to be able to see another way of doing things that might help you. And yeah. Now
I do want to talk a little bit about sort of the Pathfinder sort of program as well. Let's just talk a little bit about Varan, because I know Varan was your mentor. What were some of the things that you did in the sessions you had with Varan?
We focus, I think, a lot on forming study plans. I didn't do any applying to early entry offers or doing that kind of stuff, so I can't really speak about that. But in terms of study plans, we would go through study plans, and he'd tell me, okay, this is the kind of things that you should need, and we'd have a look at what I'd create and go, okay, you might need some more time on this here, or maybe you're spending a little bit too much time or too little time here. I think it just helped me kind of another perspective on whether my study plan, not just whether I was sticking to it, but also whether what I was trying to stick to in the first place was actually good and effective.
Cool. So it sounds like it was very much just about, yes, checking in to make sure, is this plan going to achieve the goals that you were hoping it to do for yourself, which is awesome. So then, the other components though of the Pathfinder program were, the workshops we were running month to month, and then the intensives, right? So there was opportunity intensive around early entries and uni. There was the HSC trials intensive, all focused around prepping for trials. And then we had the professional intensive that sort of came afterward, particularly. Were there any? What was your sort of main takeouts or the things that you enjoyed most from the month-to-month workshops that we're running as part of the Pathfinder program?
My highlight of the entire program was definitely the professional intensive. All things about uni and finalising preferences and LinkedIn and interviews and resumes and all that kind of stuff. That's just stuff we just never really get taught anywhere, and I think it's just so important for not just getting into uni and sort of, I guess, doing well in uni, but also after that and finding your first job and presenting well to employers. I think that's probably the most useful part of the program for me, and I got a lot of benefit out of that.
Cool, awesome. And so what were some of the takeouts that you had from that particular intensive?
So from that intensive, I built a LinkedIn profile I'm pretty happy with. I built a resume. I got a nice template for a cover letter that I can use when I go to apply to a job. I feel I was able to finalise my uni preferences. I felt pretty confident and I kind of understood that if I didn't get into something, that I'd be able to change it and understand what I was doing. I also found there was the panel that we had with a bunch of people who'd been at university, quite useful. That kind of opened me up to different things, thinking about societies and getting involved in uni life that I wasn't really thinking about before. Overall, it's just a lot of use, and I took most of it away and applied it. Yeah.
Cool, brilliant, that's awesome. How did sort of the program, whether or not it was the mentoring, the workshops, etc., help you sort of identify and manage your UAC preferences or university preferences?
To be fair, I organised a lot of my uni preferences before I went to the intensive, but it just helped as like a final confirmation of here's where to place things strategically, so you know what offers you're getting, and if, let's say, I didn't get into my first offer, I was quite lucky too, that I knew, well, okay, this is the course that I should put here because it has a different ATAR to this one, and I'm more likely to get this offer, and basically just manage it strategically so I get the best offers and able to choose from my preferred courses.
How would you describe the Pathfinder program to someone else if you had to try to describe it to someone?
I would probably describe it as all the things that you really should learn but don't. All the things with, whether it's kind of mental health, we did a workshop on that, with breathing and kind of eating and sleeping, all that kind of stuff, or the professional intensive, or the little speed dating things where you got to see different careers and understand kind of feel out for those who may not know necessarily what they want to do after school. Just all the things that you kind of, like the stuff that you really should learn in school or in like official activities that you really don't, and I think it's really beneficial for students and something that I definitely recommend doing.
It's a good way to describe it, yeah. It's what we've tried to set out with it, so that's good to see. What advice would you have to students who are studying their HSC right now, who are also battling with procrastination?
My advice to students who had similar issues, I guess, that I faced, would probably be, first thing, with a study plan. Build a study plan that you know that, or that you believe that you can stick to. So really, without, just be realistic. Put down the work that you know that you can actually get done without overworking yourself or underworking yourself, I guess, so you don't get ready for an exam. Be realistic, and with that, keep accountable. Whether it's the whiteboard like I did, it's a very big solution to a big problem, I guess. But there are other ways to do it. Just find someone who can keep you accountable and keep you on top of your work, and keep checking in with you. Hey, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Otherwise, it's just very easy, as the students, I guess, who are suffering with this will know, very easy to just fall down that rabbit hole and get lost and end up a day for an exam and like, well, what am I doing here?
Cool. And if you could take a time machine and go back to the start of year 12, what would you do differently, Alex?
Probably going to sound like a lot of other students saying this, but I think kind of probably a lot of the normal things, I guess, that people say. So keeping on top of my study notes. I realised that when I was a few weeks from my physics exam, writing, pages and pages of notes that I should have been doing as I was learning content through the year. Keep on top of your work. I found during COVID I was falling behind. I think, obviously, if we don't really have another lockdown next year, which I hope we don't, then this may not be as relevant, but I found myself kind of falling behind. It's very easy to just think, oh, okay, my assessments are done for this term, I'm just going to chill out. But I found myself, kind of falling behind on classwork, not really staying on top of my study notes, and I found myself like the next term getting ready for assessment, and I'm like, I wish I tried a bit harder, and so really just kind of in short, keep things. If I had a time machine, I would just say, keep on top of your work, stay on top of things, because you might go, yes, it might be good to procrastinate then, but you'll feel it down the track when you come to an assessment and you go, all that extra stress that I just faced, I could have just saved by just staying on top of things and keeping on track and staying accountable, keeping a study plan, all that kind of stuff.
That's all the questions I had, but maybe one final one is just, is there anything else you want to share? Any thoughts, advice, comments at all?
Something I wanted to add was probably with the reasoning for my procrastination that we've been talking about, which is my passion for cars and writing and reading about that. I would say that yes, it might cause procrastination, but that doesn't mean you should go the other way and completely ditch your passion altogether in your hobby. I think I struggle with that. That was a big issue as we've talked about. I've found myself going down rabbit holes and getting off track. But definitely, yeah, I would say not ditch it. It kind of helped me stay sane and stay happy and doing things that I enjoyed. And in terms of like advice for students, probably just build that stuff into your study plan. Know that yes, you still need to get your work done, but have a good balance. I sound like every teacher ever, but just have a good balance between make sure yes, you still get your time to have fun, but also do your work, because that is in the end your first priority.
So I think that's really important though, because I think you're right. There is a risk where you're like, well, this thing is what I'm procrastinating with, therefore the solution is entirely cut it, cold turkey, get rid of it. But then I think in many respects, yes, that if that's something that you love doing, all of a sudden something that could be a powerful motivating tool for you, to go, well, hey, if I get my work done, I'll get to do that thing that I love, that's gone. And so you've actually lost a tool at your disposal to, stay mentally healthier and sane, but also more motivated throughout the year. So just a question on that for you, because I know you were writing and, you had work connected to, your passion for cars, which is really fantastic. How much were you working throughout year 12 in terms of what was that work commitment like? Probably
too much. I think I really only started to do it on a more regular basis in about August, which anyone who's aware of a HSC timetable will know that's not ideal.
Basically trials.
Trials, yes, but I think I started about 2 weeks before trials, which is not good.
And what was that time commitment like?
Good, and it's a good and bad thing that my work I did mostly from home, mostly from my desk where I was also studying, whereas other people might have to go into work and various places. But I found myself spending a bit too much time on that, and I wasn't really controlling myself, and I allowed my study plan to kind of falter, and I go, oh, I'm going to pick this article to write. I quite like that. But my advice would probably just be realistic, build that time into your plan, and just be aware that you still need to do your work in the end, and make sure that is, I said it before, it sounds like a broken record, but it's your first priority, your study, and just still have time for the stuff you love, but study as well. And
so the good thing really for you is that work was a passion, which isn't always the case for everyone, but I think you were really lucky in that. Was that still a 10-hour commitment a week, a 15-hour commitment that you were doing in your trials, and then afterwards, what was the sort of commitment you were looking at?
It wasn't really 15 hours. I could only really do a certain amount of stories a week, but it would probably be 5-6 hours.
So it was pretty reasonable, really. So even though trials and HSC were here, it was something that was small enough that you could balance. And also give you an outlet that was something that you enjoyed.
For me, when I find myself doing that, and also procrastinating in general on car sites, and I think I found myself writing car articles 2 days for my physics exam, HSC exam, which things I would not recommend. So I would just say, really just balance it, keep a lid on it. If you acknowledge that your study is falling behind and you're doing too much, just go, okay, no, I've got to stop now, focus on my work, that's my priority.